So today we're gonna start the biggest project that we've done so far to our RV, and that is our solar install.
We bought the Solar Extreme Kit from GoPower, and it comes with everything we need to dry camp without worrying about running out of power. It comes with 3 160 watt solar panels for 480 watts of solar power, a 3000 watt pure sine inverter, a smart converter charger, a 30 amp PWM solar controller, and a pre-wired transfer switch.
So first thing I had to do is yesterday I got up on the roof of the RV and I had to clean everything because the Dicor sealant won't stick to the rubber roof if it's dirty. So I basically just took a hose, a bucket full of Dawn dish soap and water, and a broom, and I just hosed everything off and brushed the soapy water all over the place, and it actually cleaned it up pretty well. It dried overnight, and I'm feeling pretty good that, you know, the Dicor is gonna stick to this roof now. Well, now it's time to put the panels on the roof. Now that we have the solar panels up here, we're going to go ahead and bolt our mounting brackets to the solar panels, and then we're gonna flip the solar panels around, set them where they need to be on the roof so that the screw holes in the brackets line up with the rafters on the roof. The rafters on this RV are every 16 inches. So we're also using a stud finder to help us find out exactly where the rafter centers are so that we know we're gonna be biting into solid wood. The factory mounting brackets only let these solar panels sit flat on the roof, and we wanna be able to tilt our panels so that we can capture more energy, especially in the winter when the sun's low on the horizon. So we went ahead and made our own mounting brackets. GoPower sells a tilting kit that has 90-degree brackets similar to this, but they cost $80 per panel. So that would cost us over $240 just to be able to tilt our panels. So we went ahead and made our own mounting hardware. We'll show you how that works, and we'll also test whether or not we actually get a significant amount of energy gain through tilting our panels in a future video. Now it's time for the nerve-wracking part, drilling into my roof. But here we go. So it took a few hours to let the Dicor dry on the mounting brackets, and also for me to take a bit of a break because it's 93 degrees out today and the sun is killing us. So we got a little break in the AC and let the Dicor dry. Now I'm gonna put the solar panels back on, and then that's it as far as mounting the solar panel goes. Step 1 is finished. I did go a bit liberal and probably overkill with Dicor application on the mounting brackets, but I figure, better to have too much than not enough. I don't want to have a leak, right? But here's a look at the mounting brackets before I set the solar panels back on top of them. So that's it. Finally done installing the panels. That was a major job, and it was only step 1 of this install. I still have to run the wires down into the RV from the panels, and then I need to install the solar controller. So there's still a lot to be done, but I am dead tired, so I'm gonna go sit in the AC, enjoy 1 or 2 ice cold glasses of water, and then enjoy my beautiful solar panels up on my roof. Today is a new day and the second part of our solar install. Solar panels are already mounted up on the roof, but today I'm going to focus on wiring those panels together and then getting that wiring down into the RV so that I can connect it to the solar controller and then get the solar controller mounted. So, let's get to it. In the Go Power Solar Extreme kit we purchased, everything is included that you need to wire these panels together, as long as you're orienting the panels like it's shown in the user's manual. The user manual shows the panels oriented side by side with the long side facing each other. However, on our setup, we have to orient the panels long ways next to each other, just because we don't have enough room on our RV's roof to orient them as shown in the user manual. So because we're orienting ours side by side, in a longer line, the wire coming out of the solar panels isn't long enough to attach to each other. So we have to buy some extension wire. It's not included in the kit. I was lucky enough to find a local company that does solar installs that has photovoltaic 10 gauge wire on hand. They happen to have just 23 feet of this, and I think that's going to be just about exactly what I need. I also had to purchase some MC4 connectors off of Amazon. I bought a kit for only about $9, and it comes with 5 sets of MC4 connectors. I'm only going to need 4, and I just have to crimp them onto my extension wire I purchased. Before I head up onto the roof, I'm going to go ahead and crimp one of these MC4 connectors onto the end of this wire, so that I can just head up there, plug it into the solar panel, and then measure out, exactly how much wire I need, cut it, then bring it back down, crimp on another end of that one, and then that one's finished. And I'm basically gonna just repeat that process until all the connections are made. So before I can start measuring the wire to see how long it needs to be, I need to tilt the panels up. So I'm gonna use these brackets that we made. We bought this stamp material from Lowe's that has the holes stamped every inch, which is really nice, but we just kind of cut them and then rounded the ends off so that they could still tilt around without hitting the brackets. So I'm gonna get these solar panels tilted up, and then I can actually measure how much wire I need to connect each panel to each other. Alright, so now that all of my panels are wired together in parallel, I can go ahead and bring up the extension wire that came with the kit that is used to run the power from the solar panels down into the fridge vent, and that's how it gets to the inside of the RV through the fridge vent, and I run it back behind my refrigerator. At this point though, I'm going to go ahead and cover up my solar panels using the cardboard from the boxes that these came shipped in. So I'm just going to cut the big square off so I can tape that to the face of the solar panels so that they're not generating electricity when I wire them into my solar controller, because I don't want to damage my solar controller somehow. I don't want to shock myself, so I'm gonna go ahead and cover those up, for safety reasons. Now that I've got the extension wires ran from the solar panels down the fridge vent, I'm going to go ahead and mount my solar controller and the inverter monitor panel. The wires are running right behind this panel right here, so I'm gonna cut the holes for the solar controller and the inverter monitor panel, and then I can reach in and grab the wires and pull them out and then wire it into the back of the solar controller, and then from there I'll run the wires up to the batteries. The manual of the solar controller came with a paper template that I can just cut out and then tape up here, but the inverter monitor panel didn't come with any template, so I just traced the back of it out and tape that up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and trace with pencil those the outline of those templates, and then I'm going to cut it out using an air saw, and then I'm gonna go ahead and mount my panels up. So now that we got those in, we can go ahead and take the solar controller module back out and get to the wires that we ran down through the fridge vent that are now right behind that solar controller, and we can go ahead and wire those in. So I'm gonna cut probably about here on both of these to, allow some extra wire just for strain relief, and just so it's not pulled tight or anything. And then this is what I'm gonna wire into the solar controller. Now that I've got the wire ran to my solar controller from the solar panels, I need to connect the solar controller to the batteries. So instead of running wires all the way from my solar controller to the front of the RV, all the way up to directly connect to the batteries, I'm gonna instead indirectly connect to the batteries using my converter that comes on all RVs, or most RVs. So my converter is directly connected to my batteries. There's a wire running from the batteries straight to the converter. So I'm gonna tap into that wire, to that positive wire, and then there's another wire running from the converter directly grounding to the frame of the RV. So I'm just gonna tap into those wires with the positive and neutral wires from the solar controller. So I'm gonna go ahead and wire in the wires running from the solar controller to the batteries into the solar controller first, and then I'll run them down to the converter where they'll tie into the wires running up from the batteries. Alright, now to get these wires down to my converter, I'm gonna need to run them back here, down and behind my fridge, and then use the fridge access point outside of the RV to then drill a hole and kind of feed that down into the converter. So I got to run all this wire back down and behind my fridge. So I'm going to go ahead and tape these two wires together so they kind of run down back behind the fridge as one, hopefully making it easier. Oops. And hopefully I can just run it back behind there and they won't catch on anything, and I'll go outside and they'll just be right there. See how lucky I get. Go ahead and pop this fridge cover off and see if those wires are there. Not seeing them. Oh man. Alright, I see them, but they're way, way up there. Let's see if I can reach in and grab them. Dang it, there's no way. Alright, go back in, feed those down, try and shake them around because it looks like they're caught in the insulation. So, yeah, I'm just gonna shake them around, see if they fall out. There they are. Alright, so now that we've got these wires ran down to this fridge compartment, I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole through this board And there should be some sort of compartment down here that my main shore power wire runs through. And then I'll be able to, I need to get into those compartments and take a look to be sure, but I should be able to then run my wire from this compartment over and up to where my converter is, which is gonna be somewhere in here inside. So I need to get in there and yeah, see where I need to run these wires to. So behind this access panel right here should be kind of that compartment I was talking about where my main shore power line runs into, and I should be able to drill a hole right down into that board, or through the board that's the floor of my fridge access point, run those wires down into here, and then I should be able to run them over to the converter. Okay, so this is a compartment just for the main shore cable, so I'm gonna have to take this panel off right here now, and then I think I can run the wires over past that panel. So I'm gonna take that off now and see what's behind it. All right, perfect. Yeah, we've got 2 big holes running back there, one for the shore power cable, and another for some water lines, probably running from the water heater. So I can probably run the wires through those 2 holes. I'm gonna go ahead and take off my fuse panel here so I can get back behind it and see how that shore power cable runs up to this converter. Hopefully there's nice big holes that I can run wires, run those battery wires straight to here. So before I take this off though, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery, and I'm also going to unplug from shore power for obvious reasons so I don't die. So now that electricity is completely cut to the RV, both from the battery and from shore power, it should be safe to now go ahead and pop this cover off and do what we need to do. So I can see that my positive wire running up from the battery is right here because it's connecting to this terminal right here that feeds power to this circuit board. And this is also the negative terminal, or the negative wire, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna splice into this wire and this wire back behind. There's plenty of wire that I can go ahead and splice into. And it also looks like there's a nice big hole where my shore plug is running to, my shore power wire. So I'm going to be able to run wire down into this compartment from the fridge access area, then over and up into this compartment, and then I can splice into these 2 wires. And that will be how my battery gets charged. I had to take this other access panel off, which is right under the electrical panel. It's the access panel for my water heater. So I took that off because the wires run right in here. Able to see them here. I can just get them up into, I can just get them right up into this compartment now. So now I can reach in and pull those wires up and through. So I'm gonna cut this wire, the positive wire, the positive lead running from my battery, and this one, the negative lead. So I'm gonna cut these and then splice into them, these 2 wires. Alright, now I can cut these wires and strip them back as well. I'm going to leave a little bit extra just so, you know, for strain relief purposes, so that nothing's tight, nothing's pulled real tight. I'm going to cut right back here. Now I just have to connect these wires together using these wire nuts, and that's basically it. Oh man, almost done. All right. Alrighty. Whew. Well, that's basically it. The wiring for the solar panels is essentially finished. I'm gonna go ahead and plug everything back in, plug my battery back in, and go ahead and see if I, am bringing in power through my solar panels. I almost forgot, there is one more step before I can go ahead and plug everything back in and test it. I need to wire in this fuse holder into the wire, the positive wire coming from the solar controller. A little 30 amp fuse sits right in there just to protect the solar controller from any shorts or power surges or whatever coming from the batteries. So yeah, I gotta wire this in, then I can test everything. Now that that's taken care of, now I can hook my battery back up, and now I can plug my shore power back in and test this thing, make sure it works. Let's do it. Okay, that means my battery is at 90% at 14.2 volts. And I'm bringing in 3 amps, 2.9 amps. Oh man, it works. Oh, it works. Oh, that is so awesome. That is awesome. It's freaking working. Oh my gosh, that was so much work, and it's working. We're not pulling in very much, but I think it's because the sun is clouded right now. Maybe once the sun starts shining, we'll start pulling in some more power, but that is awesome. It's actually working. Yes. Oh, all right. There's a lot of cleanup to do now, and I still need to, tie down the wires on the roof right now just to clean everything up. Screw down some wire clamps so everything is nice and clean up there, so wires aren't flopping around and stuff on the roof. But it's official. It works. That's awesome. All right. The very last thing to do before I get to clean up and be all done with this part is to go ahead and mount this solar controller with these tiny little screws that are included with the kit. I'm doing it by hand because I don't really trust this glue on. I don't want to strip it out, so I'm just going to put it in by hand. So after reading the manual a little bit and noticing that the state of charge of my battery was 90%, I realized that's why my current was so low from my solar panels. It was only reading about 3 amps because my battery was almost fully charged, so it was just trickle charging the battery. Once I turned on some appliances and started using some electricity, the current that the solar controller was allowing to flow through my battery jumped up over 10 amps, so everything's good. This is the end then of part 1 of our solar install. We got the panels in, wired, and the solar controller mounted and wired, but there's still a lot left to do. I have to mount and wire in the inverter, the transfer switch, the smart charger, and our third video is going to be the installation of our lithium batteries. We have those on order, and those will be in just a few days. So before long, this entire solar setup is going to be done, and we'll be able to live off the cord and make our own electricity. So that's it for part 1 of our solar install. I'm exhausted, so I'm going to go kick back and relax and enjoy the free energy my solar panels are bringing in. Catch you guys later.